Hello, everybody. Welcome to Pearls of Wisdom here at Aquarian Pearls. And today it's a great pleasure to introduce Mark Tremonti, the opal hunter, who is in Albury, which is between the cities of Melbourne and Sydney. Good day, Mark. How are you?
I'm doing great there, David. Doing really fantastic. Good day, everybody that's watching this. Hope it's going to be entertaining for you and definitely trying a little bit of knowledge. Yes, David?
I hope so. And Mark, I've got to ask you first up where you grew up and studied and started off life in general.
Life in general. Well, I'm a country boy. I grew up in country New South Wales, just outside of the town of Albury, on a small acreage farm there. We actually bred racehorses for the Melbourne yearling sales. And that's where I did my studies, small town. And small town guy. I learned to ride a horse before I learned to ride a push bike.
Fantastic! What a great upbringing you must have had. That must have been amazing. And did you study everything there? Did you go to college as well?
Well, the studying here was small town studying, and there's no colleges or that type of thing because it's small town. So extra things that I did was by mail in, and so I did the courses like business management, advertising, marketing, sales. I did by doing the courses, mailing it in, mailing it back. So it was just a mail-in job before I left town.
And how did you enter the jewelry business, or the opal business? How did that transition happen for you?
Well, that's a little bit of an adventure, because I sort of packed up with the studies around the age of about 20 odd. And a friend of mine gave me a telephone call and said, "What are you doing, Mark?" And I said, "Well, I can't get a job to save myself because there was no work here in the late 70s when it was like 1978. So he gave me a call. "What are you doing?" And I said, "Well, I'm carrying bricks and I'm digging holes for a plumber." And he says, "Well, if you're going to be carrying bricks and digging holes, why don't you come up to far north Queensland, because I'm mining sapphire and we can do something there." So I packed everything else up and just got out of town, went up to far north Queensland, ruby, emerald, sapphire, Anarchy sapphire field. So I ended up there with my mate for a few months.
And how far north is that? Is that like hot and dusty and in the middle of the desert almost, or?
Yeah, like? to find that you go inland from Rockhampton, which is above Brisbane and below Cairns. You go about 600 k's in, or 400 miles inland from there. That's the best way to find it. You go straight in. It's one of the largest sapphire fields on the planet, actually.
Wow. On sapphires of all different colors.
Yep. Lots of blues. They mined it with bulldozers. Wow. Bulldozers and front end loaders. And of course, young fellas like me and my mate, we're just pick and shovel and small washing plants, and just got into digging. When you're a young guy, you could do that, lots of muscle, lots of time.
And did that lead into finding opals?
Yes. Well, what happened there is that we did the sapphire first, and we do the northern sapphire fields, and we found a lot of sapphire. That's what basically started me off in the business. And then we'd drive down to Lightning Ridge, spend the night there, and then go down to Inverell, which was another 400 miles south. So we were going between the two sapphire fields, and we were stopping in Lightning Ridge and met a couple of guys there, and they said, "Well, and my mate goes, "Well, what about digging opal?" And I'm like, "Opal? What do you want to do opal for?" I said, "He said, oh, it's nice, it's beautiful material. It's this, that, the other." And next thing you know, we ran out of sapphire in the north, stopped in Lightning Ridge, and just started mining in Lightning Ridge. That's how it all began, age of about 23.
And so did you get the boom of the 80s with all the Japanese going mad for opal who came to Australia?
Absolutely. I was one of the young guys down there in the early 80s. I mean, the Lightning Ridge in the early 80s was a pure frontier town. Yes. You had about 8,000 odd miners. I think even Forbes magazine printed it in 85 that it was the highest number of millionaires under the age of 35. in the world.
And they'd become millionaires through finding opals for the market.
Correct. Yeah.
That's amazing. So it was boomtown, but in the middle of nowhere, kind of frontier time.
Complete Wild West. I mean, there's a lot of stories, and I'm quite a number of them I can't tell you on the Zoom meeting.
But was this the place where people live underground, or is that's Coober Pedy in South Australia, right? Or is that Lightning Ridge?
No, that's out in Coober Pedy. That area of mining in Coober Pedy leads to a lot easier underground dwelling.
Yes.
Where Lightning Ridge, you basically everything's a 3 feet shaft, a 3 foot wide shaft that goes down 20, 30, 40, 50 meters. So yeah, the inside, dwelling living is a lot easier in Coober Pedy because it's on the side of the hill and you dig in. Where Lightning Ridge, it's flat on top and you have to do the hole down. So
and did you start selling the opals as well, or did your buddy do that, or did you get into the whole going to Hong Kong for jewelry show business, or were you dealing with retailers, or what were you doing?
Well, basically, we get the opal out of the ground, and then we dealt with a few of the local buyers. And the first thing we did was learn how to cut the material, set up a cutting shop, and learn how to cut and process the material. And that also led into what we were doing with the sapphire, because I started a lapidary over in Sri Lanka in 1985, where we still process opal today. Yes. And so a lot of the gem material we cut and polish. Like here, I take care of a lot of the gem material on my own machines here, because you don't really want to trust anybody else to pull out the gem, because it's very difficult material to cut. You've got to orientate it properly. So we did the mining, wholesaled a little bit of rough, but once we had the lapidary running in 85, we never sold rough again. Very little. Basically, if you bought my rough, I'm sorry.
And then you had finished sapphires and finished opals. And did you sell them to retail stores or to the public, or did you go to the jewelry shows and exhibit, or how did you do it?
Okay, well, what happened there is with the sapphire market, when we started, that's how the whole opal business.
How's your friend? Who's your friend?
My dog's giving me a hard time. Sorry, guys.
What's his name?
Cleo.
Mrs. Cleo needs some lunch.
Looking for loving. So yeah, what we did the whole process there. We set up the lapidary in Sri Lanka, and then we exported everything straight out to London. And in London, we set up a small marketing office for the sapphire and the opal. So we were using the Austrade development grant at the time. I helped actually develop that grant and develop the process for the jewelry industry in 1985. So I was attached to the government, very heavily to get export out, because 1985, a fax was a thermal roll. A mobile phone was a satellite brick with a battery pack. A telegraphic transfer was a yellow card with holes punched in it.
Yes, so, different times.
Different times completely. So we took everything out over to England, and then in England, we then started wholesaling. So it was primarily always wholesale on the material. So we get it out of the ground in Australia, take it over to Sri Lanka, process the material there, export it out to England. From England, we then exported around Europe, and that's where I met your dad, actually, and that's how I met you guys.
Yes,
we go back a long way.
Yeah, absolutely. And did you and how did you make the leap into the television business, and how did that come about for you?
Oh, that one there. Well, that actually happened because of Birmingham jewelry manufacturers wanted cheap. That was in England, in the UK. They wanted really cheap black, blue sapphire, which we had bucket loads. And they also wanted low-grade opal material for the first lot of guys for QVC. They started off in England, and then they split apart somewhere in the 80s. One went to America, one stayed in England. And I supplied those guys who were their main manufacturers. Goodness, for 12, 15 years, I supplied them. So I met a lot of the TV people then. And at Tucson is when I got involved with the gem shopping in Tucson. I met Frank and Marvin.
Frank is the founder of of Gem Shopping Network. It was the birthday yesterday, or today, American time, the 10th of May, 1997, I found out they went to air. So, and today's the 11th of May. And Marvin started off when he was very young, didn't he, in doing shows and buying and selling gemstones with Frank, the founder.
Yeah, he was actually attached to another opal guy there for a while out of Cooper Pedy, and that's how Frank met him. He got introduced to doing opal on the network there as well. But Marvin and Frank were at Tucson, Arizona, the big gem fair. I had a booth there, and Frank was having an argument with a guy about Russian demon toys and ended up having a whole pile of cash in his bag that he had to go and get from the bank, and then it was going to go away somewhere else. And Marvin was standing there and he was looking at the opal and he's like, "You got some nice opal?" I go, "Yes, I do it for a living." Strange that.
Fancy
and,
that.
Marvin had a good look at it. Then Frank's all grumpy and he's turned around and he's like, Marvin says, "Have a look at this guy's opal. It's pretty good." So this is how I met Frank and got introduced into the TV in America. Is Frank's having a look. He points at a stone. He goes, "How much is that?" I go, 8,500. He goes, "I'll give you 6." And I go, "Okay, put that aside." "How much is that one?" I go, 13,000. He goes, "I'll give you 10. I go, "Okay." Well, listen, I just put the money aside, put the stone to stone. He goes, "Okay, what about that, and that?" I go, this. He goes, "I'll give you that." I go, "Fine." He goes, "How much do I owe you?" And I said, "Well, you owe me a check for about 15,000. And he goes, "No, that can't be right. You got to add that up." And I said, No, you owe me a check for 15,000 and the cash you got in the bag that you got for the Russians for the demon toy.
I'll take that. he liked you.
Laughed. Yeah, he just laughed and he said, "Here's my card. Come and see me. You'd be great. I'd love to see you doing some TV work." And that's how I basically got involved. I went and saw Frank, and now that's it.
When was your first show, Mark, that you actually went live on a TV show?
Oh, goodness. That would have been somewhere at the end of 2003, I believe.
And what was it like, your first TV show? What was it like?
No idea what I was doing. Everything was plastic bags and handwriting and handing it to Marvin, and Marvin was yelling sold and everything was getting done. So it was quite a frontier, seriously. In 2003, the gemstone industry's definitely a frontier business, and so was the internet. There was very little going on, back 20 odd years ago.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it was a success, and you just kept coming back again and again and again.
Yeah, I think it's because I made Frank laugh a lot.
Fantastic. And the customers love you too over there in Atlanta. Yeah. And I turned up maybe 6 years ago, having met the guys at the Las Vegas Trade Fair, but you'd already been there a good 7 to 10 years, probably, I imagine.
Yeah. It's my 16th, 17th year there.
Fantastic. And it's an amazing way of connecting with customers, isn't it? It's a beautiful way of connecting with the public and hearing all the appreciation for what everyone's buying.
Yeah, what they basically like is that you just direct, this is the product, this is what it is, this is how it is. And that's what I like about the network itself, is that you just stay to what the material is, because there's a lot of stuff out there that it's very confusing on the internet and other podcasts and this, that, and the other. And people could interact with you, ask the questions, and just keep going forward, and that's what they love, was basically all the knowledge, because I'm all hands-on, I get out of the ground, cut and polish it, calibrate it, single stones, multiples, whatever, top gems, lower quality. So I know the whole process with everything, and that's what people enjoy, the actual reality of it.
I know you sell a lot of diamonds as well, but is opals your first love, and what do you love about them so much? Like, we're obsessed with pearls, with all the colors and the luster, and I must say, if I wasn't a pearl person, I love the colors in opals. They're like impressionist paintings or something. But do you have a massive love for opals anyway now, or are you more like a miner and they're just a product of what you mine?
Well, opal sorry about that. Opal is a gem that makes a cutter cry. Okay. So
how romantic.
It's a really, with opal, it's a love-hate relationship. like no other in the gemstone industry, because it's such a fickle stone to cut and polish. And then I love the multicolored gems, multicolored sapphires that we got out of Australia, the party colors, the teals and the orange,
Yes.
and mixed with the greens and the yellows. I always love those over just a straight standard color. So when I saw the opal and all the rainbow of beauty that you can get out of that material, and such a diversity of pattern and colors, it's captivating. It's Mother Nature's natural hologram, isn't it? It's like a natural kaleidoscope, when you were a kid. So you can stare at opals forever. So yeah, that's definitely
Beautiful.
a love for opal. But I can tell you, when you're cutting and polishing, it can make you cry because there's always a sand or something inside.
I hear you. And Mark, did you have any special mentors or teachers along the way who were very dear to your heart?
Oh yeah, there's at least a dozen guys that I grew up with in the business. Quite a number of them have gone because I've gotten old myself. So, but yeah, there was always guys there that sort of take you under the wing and let you sort of develop, and understood that you were going to be in this industry for a lifetime, and that you had a love for it, because you just can't be in this industry unless you love it. You got to love the business, the stone, the adventures, the ability to have your own freedom, and then put up with the good times as well as the bad times. But mentor wise, I had them from quite a number of countries. England, Sri Lankan guys that I used to know over there, they were quite good. Japan, Australian, the miners, the old miners that I don't see anymore because they're gone. But the old fellas, they were good. They really showed us what we were looking for.
Did the COVIDs change your business enormously, or a little, or not much? We're now 11th of May in 2021 today, and we've all just come out the other side in different ways. Not so much other countries like India, which is still going through it, but here in Australia we are.
Yeah, that's just an interesting conversation that can go for hours. But the short point of it all, in my thinking, when it started was, we're a year and a half into a minimum of 3 years, and then 5 years to getting back to some sort of normal. That's pretty much how pandemics run if you look at history. So I'm sort of happy to be where it is now. And we did put in a COVID plan with all the lapidaries and offices and places I work. And, so because we looked at the SARS thing that happened in Hong Kong, and because we manufacture jewelry, we cut and polish gemstones, diamond, opal, sapphire, all the different materials. So we put in place that type of protocol. So we're quite safe. The effect of course, is huge on everybody. The ability not to go and do trade fairs and trade shows is difficult. So the TV business has been a good business, and that's the mainstay at the moment. I'm actually, to tell you the truth, David, I'm actually loving staying home for longer periods of time and processing material. So that's been the best outcome out of the COVID. I get to stay home more.
Fantastic. And Mark, if you weren't an opal person or a sapphire man, a stone dealer, what would you be, do you reckon? Have you any idea?
I can't say a bum.
You could be a TV presenter.
Doing nothing. No.
Or have you never considered anything else?
A lot was the stock market and, stock brokering, stock market, banking, that type of thing. So I'm pretty good with the numbers, but I definitely love the freedom that the opal industry and the gem business gives us.
Fantastic. And my lucky last question is, if you had to give some advice to a young bloke, a young man or woman who was thinking of entering the jewelry business, the opal business, the TV business, or anything, but specifically for jewelry, let's say, what would you say to them? And you can say anything you want. You're a free man.
All right. Well, the very first thing is that if you don't have a true passion for the stones and the general love of the jewelry, don't even think about it, right? If you're only thinking about the money, forget about it. What you need to have is a passion for the geology, the cutting, the design, the process, the gold. You know, if you have a passion for jewelry, definitely follow it. And it is very likely, well, it is absolutely, I'm sorry, it's a business of attrition. Okay, you start as a young person and you simply build up the ladder until you become an older guy like myself or David. Okay, and he looks better than me. Once you get into the older positions, generally there is nobody else around that is the expert that everyone goes to. So it is a business of attrition. If you don't want to do that, you don't have the passion, don't even think about it. But if you love our industry, you'll get a great family, huge friends, global travel. You'll understand the world in its entirety, and you'll have a different perspective of life at the end. So that's my best advice for young people.
That's fantastic, Mark. Well, thank you very, very much for being with us here on Pearls of Wisdom. It's been an absolute pleasure chatting with you today, and wish you all well in Opal land. Thanks, Mark.
Thanks, mate.